So I'm getting chills through my whole body, and that's when it's a very important question. And I just want to say that your loved ones are always with you.
Yeah.
Even if you feel like they're not, they are always with you. I feel what happens is you're grieving so intensely. There's a frequency that they're on, and we have to kind of meet them at a certain frequency. And I mean, they're at a very high, gorgeous frequency. We're not there.
Yeah.
But we need to heighten our frequency a little bit and maybe think about how it was looking in their eyes, how it just lit you up. Just think about something about them that just makes you glow and happy, and just start getting into a position where you think about something beautiful about them, not in grief, but in love, like pure love. And you can sit and I always say go out into nature. Nature is
Yeah.
extremely grounding. It's absolutely authentic. Put your arms around a tree. I do this all the time.
I do.
It is a lot of more people are going to be doing it. It's very nurturing. The tree will talk to you. But if you can just step out mainly of that very difficult place you're in, you will get signs. I promise you.
Yeah. Hello, my grieving friend. It's Lisa. Whether you're a longtime listener or you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to Grief is a Sneaky Bitch podcast. I'm so glad you're here. By now, you likely know I'm passionate about exploring the nature of grief. As a narrative therapy trained social worker, a grief activist, and a widow, I'm dedicated to helping us learn to be in relationship with our grief instead of running from it. In our modern culture, we've pushed grieving into the shadows, something to be experienced privately, causing us to suffer unnecessarily and in isolation. Grief is our human inheritance. It offers us medicine if we tend to it as a community. So, together with my extraordinary guests, and this season answering your questions too, we're changing the narratives of grief, one conversation at a time. I'm so excited to share this conversation with my friend and fellow podcast host, Sandi Serling. She is the creator and host of Fear Unzipped. It's a podcast where neuroscience and metaphysics intersects to explore how fear shapes the nervous system, perception, and identity. And I've had the great privilege of joining her as a guest on that show. Now, for much of her life, Sandi experienced shyness and anxiety without realizing that her intuitive sensitivity was absorbing the emotional and energetic states of others. Fear became a quiet but persistent presence, subtly influencing her choices and her sense of self. She spent over 30 years in public relations and marketing, founding Serling Media Relations and working with all kinds of folks across the entertainment industry. And despite outward success, deeper questions remained. She wondered what her purpose was and what is fear asking of her. A decade-long immersion in neuroscience and metaphysical practices, compounded by the loss of both her parents within 4 months of each other, it marked a profound turning point. Through neuroplasticity and conscious awareness, Sandi came to see fear not as an adversary, but as a messenger. As its grip loosened, clarity, agency, and self-trust emerged. In our conversation today, Sandi shares what she's learned about the light and ease and energy of our loved ones' experience, how we can pay more intimate attention to our intuition and therefore continue our relationship with them, how shifting our inner dialogue has helped and can help us show up in the world with more love for self and others, and well, so much more. I can't wait for you to meet her. My friends, I'm so thrilled to introduce you to my friend, Sandi Serling. Welcome to Grief is a Sneaky Bitch podcast. I'm so glad you're
Oh,
here, my friend.
Lisa, it thrills me beyond words. You're one of my most favorite people. You're one of the most favorite people I interviewed on Fear Unzipped, and you are doing so much to reimagine grief, and it is so important. So I'm honored, truly honored.
Oh, well, thank you so much. The listeners heard at the top of the show a little bit about your story, about your career, about your parents, about the incredible intuitive force that you're bringing to the world. Your podcast, as you mentioned, Fear Unzipped, which I've had the honor of being a guest on. So we're going to dive into that and more in our conversation over this next hour. But I wanted to ground us where I ground every conversation over
Mhm.
the last 7 seasons. And as someone who I know appreciates the power of thought and story and narrative, I'm hopeful this question is as interesting to you as it is to me. And that's helping us unpack where our grief beliefs came from. So when you think
Sure.
about a early memory of loss, maybe likely in your childhood, or just an early memory of loss, tell us a little bit about that. In particular, how were the adults in your life modeling explicitly or implicitly grief? And what do you think that taught you about grief and maybe then how you grappled with that in your adult life?
Such an amazing question. Well, Lisa, this might sound strange to some. I remember feeling anxiety in my mom's womb. So, and my mom was the most beautiful, wonderful, oh my gosh, wonderful person, but she had anxiety. I was her third daughter, and it just there's a lot going on. My
Yeah.
father was traveling a lot. So I felt that. So I came out of the womb scared.
Mm,
And but I realize now that a lot of it was I always had the ability to pick up on other people's energies. And so when you do that and you're young, an adult, and as you get older, you're
yeah.
5 or something, an adult tells you something and you're not really analyzing like an adult would, but as a child, you're going, I'm uncomfortable because they're not telling me the truth. I'm uncomfortable,
Yes.
but they're an adult. So of course they're telling you the truth. You're just a kid. Who are you?
Right.
And so I always had anxiety. I always felt like the other shoe was going to drop. I always could feel angst. And my parents, who were so adoring and loving and supportive, and always said, you can be anything you want to be, just loved me to pieces. But they also covered grief up. So when my grandmother, we were living in Turkey at the time. My
Mm,
father traveled the world. My father actually was a spy. I later found out, which
wow.
is fun, interesting. But we were living in Turkey, and I always wrote to my grandmother and my aunt because they lived together. Dear Grandma and Aunt Jean. One day, my mom said, "Why don't you just write Dear Aunt Jean?" That was it. And so, Lisa, I never questioned why aren't I writing to Grandma. It just never dawned on me. And
Yeah.
so, dear Aunt Jean, so we never talked about
Wow.
death and dying. And I've had so many things that happened that just were shocking to me because I never was nurtured around that.
Yeah.
But they were doing what they felt was the best. What they thought was a terrible thing. See, I don't look at death as a
Yeah.
terrible thing. But they thought it's going to cause her pain. So we're going to keep her happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that I just had just such a visual when you were saying dear Aunt Jean and grandma and then dear Aunt Jean. That just felt like
Yeah.
such a I had a visceral reaction to that. Um, I appreciate you sharing that story. And as I've said so many times on the show, um, when I asked this question about how the adults were modeling grief, and in your case, as is in so many families, at least families in the West, I would say, where it's like we just don't talk about it. Kids aren't
Mhm.
invited to funerals. We just try to pretend everything's happy, is not uh, an excuse to bash our parents. But this is, as you pointed out, they were doing probably what they learned from their
Mhm.
parents. And the story around the culture that they experienced was death is bad and just too difficult to talk with kids about. And we're better to experience our grief internally and not externally. Um, yeah. Yeah. So, how did you were such an intuitive person, you said at birth, although we're going to talk today about kind of how you learned to trust that over time. It took
Mm.
a while. Um, I think that. whether somebody listening calls themselves an intuitive person or not, I think is so profound because the dissonance, which is what you were saying, between what the adults are telling us in our lives about we should get over it by now, or not talking about the family member that's just disappeared and not part of the story, or the pictures are down, don't match our internal feelings of
Yeah.
grieving and longing and mourning. And that dissonance is actually
Mm.
the harm. It's the gap between what we sort of intuitively know we need in our grief versus what, in your case, your parents, but I would say more broadly, culture says we should have accessible to us in our grief. Does that resonate to like
It
little
it com
Sandy? Yeah.
it absolutely resonates to little Sandy, who was lived in fear and anxiety all her life, hence
Yeah.
why I'm now doing a podcast called Fear Unzipped. I mean, it's really for me, I'm unzipping my fear as much as
Yeah.
everybody else is. Um, but something did shift for me, but it happened late in life, like well into my late 50s, that I went, "Oh, light bulb moment. I get it. This is not me." And I had to reimagine all of it. I had to reimagine what death was. I had to reimagine just what my anxiety was. It's not mine. And I can tell to most of your listeners and viewers that 98% of the anxiety you're picking up is probably on other people, is from other
Yeah.
people. And once you start realizing that, I did have an experience that happened to me that was just, I mean, heart wrenching, that concerned death.
Yeah.
And it was a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. I think I was 21 at the time. Very dear friend of mine who went to I was living in Oregon. My parents live in Maryland. He went to my parents' house on Mother's Day, took my mom irises, which were my favorite flower at the time, to wish her
Mm,
happy Mother's Day. Hug, 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 love, love, love. They called me. 2 days later, he took his life.
mm,
And I have to tell you, Lisa, when I found out, first of all, I felt tremendous guilt myself because I was supposed to fly home for the summer and I didn't. I stayed in Oregon. I stayed at the University of Oregon to finish, to
yeah.
go to summer school, which I loved. And so I took on that guilt. Oh my God, if I was there, I would have changed the whole trajectory of his life, right?
Yeah.
Kind of an egotistical thought, really, when you
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But I lived with I didn't understand. I didn't understand. And I became angry at him.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my God, how could you do this? And then it was and I struggled with it every day. For such a long time. But then I had a dream one night, Lisa, and he came to me in the dream, laughing, smiling, adorable as he is and was, wearing an orange sweatshirt. I just remember that so well. We were at some hotel. He's sitting on a big chair, and I go and I sit in his lap and go, "What? Why did you do this? What are you doing here? And why did you do this?" He's laughing. He goes, "I'm good. I'm fine. Everything is great. I promise you, everything is great." And at that moment when he said that to me, so that dream was as real to me
Yeah.
as me talking to you right now. And I can tell everybody out there, it is as real. It might be
Yeah.
more real than the conversations that we're having now on this
Mm,
plane that we're on.
yeah.
And at that moment, it released this anger that I felt, and of course, guilt and all the things. And I just loved him so much. And I just said, I get it. I totally get it. That was your journey.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
It was so huge for me, but I didn't have a good mirror or something for grief. I didn't know how to
Yeah.
handle grief, and that was the most tragic. I was student teaching at the time at the University of Oregon. I remember coming back, I'm sobbing in front of my students, and one guy in the back goes, "Oh my God, she's crying. Oh my God." Like
Yeah.
he didn't know, like, oh, this lady. And and I said, "Look, if any of you are ever suffering or you feel like you're finding your days to be challenging, please come talk to me.
Yeah.
You're not alone."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing your friend with us. And also you touched on a theme that we've touched on in other conversations over the seasons, which is the anger that we often feel at the dead, particularly when folks die by suicide, but for all kinds of reasons. I certainly had felt feelings of anger towards my husband
Mhm.
after his death. And also the story that we have about our own, um, if we had done something then, the kind of imaginary thinking that we do, which is very, of course, makes sense. We're trying to make sense of a completely incomprehensible situation. And the more we stay on that track, the less we actually really come to be with the grief that needs to be felt in the moment. And so, just to anybody who might be somewhere along that spectrum right now, there's no judgment in this. This is just an invitation or an offering to notice that it can be a different way. So, anyhow, I just wanted to offer that um, to you. You have this quote that I've heard you share across time and space, and I wanted to read it and just see where that might take us to, because we relate so much around thought and story and narrative. You
Um,
say every thought gives us the opportunity to reshape our inner world and rewrite our story. Can you tell us a little bit about where that came from and if there's a story related to the quote or yeah.
well, it's because so much of my life I would be critical of myself
Yeah.
and say, "I'm not as good as that person doing whatever they're doing. I'm not, or this person doesn't like me." And I'm picking up on when you're an empath, which you are as well, and I
Yeah.
think probably many of your listeners are.
Yeah.
When you're an empath, you don't know where the boundary is. You have no idea. Now I have ways to boundary. I boundary every single day of my life now. But so I'm picking up all this stuff and I'm thinking it's me, that it's about
Yeah.
me. And of course, nobody is really thinking about you because they're thinking about themselves. so
Exactly.
so what I realized, thought thought has energy and frequency. So if
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm just not as good as Lisa at doing this. I'm just not as good. I'm never
Yeah.
going to be as good as Lisa. Well,
Yeah.
your brain, because it doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality, is going, "Oh, that's how you feel. Let me support you because I'm your best friend."
Yeah.
And it's telling me, "Oh, you don't feel as good as Lisa. Well, I'm going to make sure that you don't feel as good as Lisa." It's so I now look at my brain as being my best friend. And how am I going to talk to my best friend? I
Yeah.
love my best friend. I think she's fantastic, and
Yeah.
I think she has a lot to offer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sounds like it's egotistical. It's not. Ego has nothing to do with it. It's more that we were put on this planet for a reason,
Yeah.
and it's not to be ashamed of who we are. I do think it's wonderful to be vulnerable. I'm very vulnerable on my podcast because I think that's important to, you know, I'm no better than anybody else, and I'm learning constantly, like
Yeah.
everybody is. So, if you have the opportunity to say something to yourself, take a deep breath and maybe find something that's really nice to say.
Yeah.
It's so, Lisa, it's so important, especially during grieving, because we go down a rabbit hole of, I should have. I
Yeah.
should have done this. I should have been this way. I shouldn't have said that to him. I shouldn't have screamed at him, before whatever it is. And like you
Yeah.
say, should is a pornographic word.
Yeah.
I don't, and I'm
Yeah.
so cognizant of it now because of you.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important that the shoulds leave us and that we take the time that it requires for us to navigate this and find the people around us that support us and are not toxic, because people will offer all kinds of advice. Hey, I want to share something with you that I just heard
Yeah.
on a podcast, and I will never forget it. I don't think you will either. It was Megan Fowley, who is
Yeah.
Andrea Gibson's wife.
Yep.
And Andrea Gibson, who we all loved. I mean, I certainly loved
Yeah.
a poet
I
for
love them so much.
a
Yes. Yeah.
poet. Yes, love them so much. Poet for the ages. Megan Fowley said the worst thing you can ever say to somebody grieving is, "How are you?" And she said it's like taking a little thimble and putting it at a river.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such an unfair question. Like, I get emotional. It's an unfair question. But you know what? I don't think I would have thought about the power of that question or the
Mhm.
magnitude until she
Yeah.
said it. So we all need to learn from everyone who is grieving how to
Yeah.
navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, let's just take a moment. Maybe in my editing, I'm gonna bring in and read, a little bit of, Andrea's poetry because they,
Mhm,
I believe, were a gift to us, and we were all lucky enough to live in this timeline along with them. Um, something you named there that I wanna amplify, Sandy, that I think is so important, to what Megan said about that question is, I had this thought the other day, my own beginning of a poem that I wrote, which was, the word grief is too narrow, to hold me and too wide to know me. Um, and
mhm,
I think though those questions of "How are you?" of course come from there's no ill intention, by the grief supporter. As you said, it really just, insultingly in a way, misses the depth and breadth and
mhm,
vastness of somebody's love for that person and also their grief for that person. Lately, I've been inviting folks, of course, I practice this myself in my own life too, to ask things, by the way, in case you're wondering and you're thinking, oops, I've asked, how are you? First of all, welcome to the human community. We've all asked, how are you? I do this
absolutely.
work and I slip and do that sometimes too. I think about helping people find ways to articulate the depth and breadth. So sometimes I'll say, what does the weight of your grief feel like today?
Mm,
Or how heavy is your grief today? Or perhaps, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you organize your grief today? I think there's a couple of things that helps us get at the depth and the breadth, Sandy, to what you were talking about and what Megan was, alluding to, but it also talks about the never-ending shift of our grief. So we say today, or you might replace the word today with for now
mhm,
or in this moment. Because I think sometimes the pain of feeling so misunderstood and the lack of belonging that happens in grief is the perception that other people, to your point of what are other people thinking of us, think that it's linear and any answer that you give in this moment is your perpetually ever answer. And that if it shifts in a quote unquote backwards direction or more negative direction,
mhm.
that you're backsliding, which is, of course, not the case. Grief is a never ending loop de loop spiral. So, yeah, thank you so much for naming that. Sandy, we share this power of story, but you also have really tapped into your strong intuitive
Mhm.
capacity, and I know we share a mutual friend, Susan Graw, who we've both had on our show before. Um, and if you haven't listened to that episode, definitely check that one out. But I'm curious, you were in a career that was, you talked about having this early anxiety, and then you went in this career where you were representing people. You were in, I think, media relations. It's a very different sort of like public facing career. You did that for 30 years. What was it, the death of your parents? Was it your own
Mm,
curiosity of neuroscience? What shifted that allowed you to tap into and begin to claim, if that's the right word,
mhm.
your intuitive power? Tell us a little bit about the timing of that.
I can tell you exactly the timing of it, which is
Okay.
amazing that I know that. So my parents died 4 months apart. They were older. They were
Yeah.
older, but I don't care how old
Yeah.
a person is. It makes no difference. In
We
fact,
never have enough time with the people we
we
love.
never like, I was just talking to my mom yesterday in, kind of in spirit, just saying, "Wow, I just wish you were here right now because I have so many questions and, just
Yeah.
like one-on-one in this 3D world. I'd love to have that." I
Yeah.
miss them. I miss them every day of my life, but so they died 4 months apart, and somebody said to me once, father my my father died, then my mom died, and once, my mom died, somebody came up to me and they said, "Oh, now you're an orphan." And I just thought, don't ever say that to anybody, and not that
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with being an orphan, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, it's just that it brought in something that it's like that world never existed, like, my
Yeah.
parents never existed. And I was sad. I was depressed, and I thought, "I have these beautiful children, I have a wonderful husband. Ain't cutting it right now for me, I need
Yeah.
something else." So, I'm one that's always been curious,
Yeah.
and I heard about something called, something, oh, now I can't even remember what it was. They work on your brain. They put this cap on your brain, and they put on electrodes, and they see what level your anxiety is.
Mm,
And so I did that. I thought I'm going to do that.
yeah.
And they told me, "Do you know that your anxiety is one of the highest that we've ever seen?" And
You're like, "This is not
and
the category that I really wanted to be the best of."
no,
Yeah.
but see, I work out a lot, and I think
Yeah.
it's what saved my life
Yeah.
because other th it's like it became my church,
Yeah.
so, working out's
Yeah.
my church. But the guy who did it ex was, had studied neuroscience, and I said, "If you teach me what you know about neuroscience, I will do your PR for you." And that's what
Oh,
we did. So he would sit down with me and teach me, and that's when I learned how the brain works. I learned that it is our best friend, that it doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy, that it's neuroplastic, so we have the opportunity to change it when we're 101.
yeah.
It's not the old days when you're 12 or something.
Yeah.
So we can change it. Once I tapped into that and I shifted my whole way of thinking and understanding energy, my intuitive abilities flew in like a tornado.
Wow.
All of a sudden, I'm hearing, I've always been able to hear loved one or people on the other side, but I
Yeah.
didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Now I understood. Oh, it's so and so. Totally normal. There's nothing strange about that. I had on my podcast Thomas Campbell, who is a physicist.
Yeah.
He says paranormal is the normal, and we're going to start finding that, Lisa, starting especially this month,
Yeah.
um, with the fire horse energy coming
Yeah.
in. And I don't know anything about astrology, but
Yeah.
I can feel the energy coming. People are going to, their intuition's going to just skyrocket for them.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of listening. It's a matter of believing that, oh, this is coming from elsewhere, not my ego talking.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And I realized the difference, which I can share between
Yeah.
intuition and me coming up with something, is intuition comes in like a whisper and floats through.
Yeah.
And if you don't grab it at that moment or write it down or remember it, it's gone. Ego is going to say, oh, that's a good idea, but I don't, it's not going to work because you have to do this and you have to do all this social media and you have to do all these things.
Yeah.
That's not intuition. That is your mind talking to you and
Yeah.
playing with you,
Yeah.
messing with you a bit.
Yeah. Um, oh, I wanna know so much more about,
Mm,
what it looks like and feels like to be, in tune. I'm curious when you're talking about coming online with your intuition. I'm so curious to know more about that, what you
mm,
learned about neuroscience. But I'm thinking about, for those who are listening who maybe struggle to feel connected to the energy of their loved one who's passed. And I want to just name, because I name it on every episode, grief happens in all kinds of places and ways, not just death loss, but in this particular instance, I'm talking about either death loss, maybe, or disappearance. But in particular, death loss, for those who feel like they don't come to me in my dreams, they feel
yeah.
jealous of other people who have,
Mm,
butterflies visit them as their person.
mm,
What might you say to that person to help them start to be present to the energy or spirit
mm.
of their person as like a simple starting place or something they might be right in front of them and they're missing it? My hope is that this show feels like a safe space to be inside your grief. Remember, you don't need to do this alone. Your grief is valid and a normal response to loss. And the truth is, we live in a grief illiterate culture, which makes navigating this process more challenging than it needs to be. As a narrative therapy trained social worker and student of grief education and ritual, I'm here to walk alongside you. I'll offer you a place to feel seen and held and help you discover skills and practices for being with both grief and joy. Let me be your guide. If you're interested in learning more about individual grief support with me, you can visit lisakeefauver.com after the show today. That's Lisa, Keefauver.com.
So I'm getting chills through my whole body, and that's when it's a very important question. And I just want to say that your loved ones are always with you.
Yeah.
Even if you feel like they're not, they are always with you. I feel what happens is you're grieving so intensely. There's a frequency that they're on, and we have to kind of meet them at a certain frequency. And I mean, they're at a very high, gorgeous frequency. We're not there,
Yeah.
but we need to heighten our frequency a little bit, and maybe think about how it was looking in their eyes, how it just lit you up. Just think about something about them that just makes you glow and happy. And this is true with your pets.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because that grief is just as real as
So
any,
real.
I mean, so real.
Mhm.
And just start getting into a position where you think about something beautiful about them, not in grief, but in love, like pure love. And you can sit and I always say, go out into nature. Nature is
Yeah.
extremely grounding. It's absolutely authentic. Put your arms around a tree. I do this all the time.
I do.
It is a lot of more people are going to be doing it. It's very nurturing. The tree will talk to you. But if you can just step out mainly of that very difficult place you're in, you will get signs. I promise you.
Yeah.
I know you're going to hear people that say, "Oh, I saw a truck and it had my loved one's name and it was a message for me." And it's hard not to feel jealous.
Yeah.
It's really hard, but you're no different than everybody else.
Yeah.
Those signs are coming in and they are trying to reach you. I'm going to tell you a story that happened with me when my
Yeah.
mom passed. I was grieving terribly. And I came in my this office, and I said, "Ma, if you're out there, just give me a sign, give me something." I even said this before she'd passed. She was just on the verge, and I said, "You have to stay in touch, Mom. You have to." And there was no response at that time.
Yeah.
So I was getting absolutely nothing. My mom was gone. My father was with me immediately right after, but my mom was gone. And so I put that out there. And I told my daughter that I did that because if something came in, I wanted validation.
Yeah.
The next day, my girlfriend calls me and she goes, "Sandy, you're going to think I'm completely out to lunch, but your mom came into me this morning and told me that she loves you, that she's doing great, and that you don't need to worry about her." And it was a voice message she left. And I screamed. I said, "Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God." So I got it. But my mom isn't here a lot. She's just not. She's on her
Yeah.
own adventure doing her thing.
Yeah.
I just I just hope people know your loved ones don't ever leave you. Even if there isn't a sign at that moment,
Yeah.
Lisa, it will come in and it'll come in at the most unexpected time in a book that somebody suggests that you read or
Yeah.
a card that they get. Maybe rainbows, I mean, it just comes in all different ways.
Yeah, a random song that has no business playing in a place that comes on. Yeah, I've had that one before too. I
Mhm,
appreciate you saying that, and I wanna name that if you're listening and you're in that deep, acute grief where every memory, even, what we might label the sweet ones, is just so laden with the
mhm,
pain of their absence. We see you, and there's no moral ground on trying to get away from that. If that's where your presence and your emotion is connected to your memories, then, I mean, just I invite you to hold your hand over your heart and say, "Of course it is, sweetie. How can it be any other way?" Like, just to bring
mhm,
so much compassion. So that is a truth, and as you move forward day to day in your grief, wherever you are, I think there's real capacity to try, experiment. I'm gonna use the word play, but I
Mhm.
don't mean play in
Mhm.
playground play, but play with the idea of trying to gaze into a picture and remember the way it felt for them to look at you. I do this all the time with
Mhm.
Eric because Eric, that man could look in your eyes like he knew your soul. He was so
Mhm.
profound in the way he looked, or a sweet memory. And do your best, as you said, to sort of allow the love or the delight or whatever is from that moment to wash over you.
Mhm.
Um, to me, that's happened to help me feel Eric's energy more. For me, I want to name this. Sometimes it is a song. I have monarch butterflies that visit me often that I swear are coming to me when
Mhm.
when the energy is open there. What I've noticed, and it took me years into my widowhood, it was after then my friend Joe died. I actually think it really started after my dog Brutus died
Mhm.
in 2020, which was 9 years after my husband died and about 6 after Joe died, that I stopped waiting for the dreams and the signs, and
Mhm.
I started just talking to Eric on a daily basis. And even when he didn't show up, I felt him.
Mhm.
And that's the difference. So can you talk a little bit about, like,
Yeah.
the agency we have in connecting to
Yes.
our own
Yes.
intuition and connecting to their energy? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I desperately wanted my mother to connect. I wanted the butterflies because I knew a
Yeah,
butterfly would come and but it wouldn't happen. So for me to just talk out loud, Mom, come on in. I just want to know you're okay. It gave me a sense of comfort.
yeah,
Even I just said it out loud. And then of course I got validation. But I want to say that if you're grieving, do it. Do
yeah,
you. Do your
yeah,
grief the way it needs to be.
yeah,
There's no right way to do it. There's no length of time. Do it. But you're going, not but,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
Lisa taught me that. And
yeah,
I catch myself all the time. It's not but and,
yeah, yeah,
which I'm sure you've shared on here.
yes,
And because I want to give, uh, respect to what I just said. And there's going to be a little moment, I'd say like a
yeah,
pinprick moment where you're going to have this, oh, that was so sweet when he or she did that.
yeah,
And that, if you can tap into that moment and just say out loud, "Oh my gosh, I love you so much. You made me laugh every time you wore that ridiculous orange sweater," or, and joke with them, laugh with
yeah,
them. They have the greatest sense of humor on the other side. They have
yeah,
such a twinkle. So if you can start bringing some of that in, Lisa, I remember when we did our conversation on
yeah,
Fear Unzipped, I didn't say it at the time,
yeah,
but Eric came in.
mhm,
He was so charismatic with a twinkle in his eye, and I'm just going, "Oh my god, I could fall in love with you.
yeah,
You're incredible." I didn't say anything till you said, "Can you feel him?" And I said, "Oh my god, yes, he's
yeah,
like the best energy." You're going to Everybody's going to start feeling
yeah,
that kind of energy. Just open to it. I think when we try really hard, a stop sign, there's like a
yeah,
stop sign of
yeah,
energy.
yeah,
The energy stops flowing. So, and it's really hard not to try. Believe me, I've done it so
yeah,
many times.
yeah.
So I
There's sort of a
honor
loose
that.
grip. It's almost that, which I talk about in
It's
grief and with our emotions too.
Yeah.
It's we don't want to push away and deny our intuition, and we don't want to cling or drag, as you said, like try too hard. There's a kind of a
Mhm.
loose grip
Yeah.
to it. Does that?
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful way. A loose grip. You still, it's still there, but and then they come in. My body is just in chills. I like need
yeah,
a down Parker right now talking about this because I can also
yeah,
feel Eric's presence. I can
yeah.
feel, you
Yep,
know,
yep.
because Eric is celebrating that you're doing this
Yeah,
because grief is beautiful.
yeah,
It is beautiful, and I wish my parents had known that at the time, but they did, what they knew best. There's something so honoring about it,
yeah.
and anyway, you're the expert on that, but I
Oh,
look at it so, so differently. No
yeah,
matter how a person passes or how an animal passes or whatever the form is that is taken for that
Yeah.
to shift into this gorgeous space that they now are in, it's a coming home for them and it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And they do not lose their personality. It gets amplified and they can be stinkers. They can just, you know,
Jokesters. Yeah. Yeah.
jokesters and play little tricks on you in just the cutest, sweetest way.
Yeah. I love it so much,
So,
Sandy.
Lisa, I think what you said, if you can just loosen the grip a little bit in the very beginning,
Yeah.
I'd say it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But then, yeah, there's some loved ones that just have to come in.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and I wanna go back and correct, I am not an expert on grief. I don't call myself an expert on grief because, I I don't I've studied grief and I know some
Hmm.
things about it, and I walk alongside people. I'm you know me, I'm a word nerd, so I always have to, like, get into the words, and I think expertise, to me, the way we've used it culturally anyways, presumes that there's no room then left for curiosity.
Hmm.
And I think in life and in grief, curiosity is actually our best friend. I mean, compassion and curiosity, I would say, and maybe a judicious use of cussing, but that's me, are our best friends. And so I think even just as we think about how do we navigate relationships with our loved ones now, which is really what you're talking about these conversations
Hmm.
and this intuition. I do think it requires I think that loose grip is synonymous with requiring a kind of curiosity. You know, like, how might I talk
100%.
to them and where might I notice them? And to sort of like, I've added, inviting Eric in my morning mantras that I've been saying for the last 10, 15 years. I end it now with a particular, phrase and question that I ask him each day, which is just for me to know, but and for him to know. So I
Sweet.
think that kind of the I want a name for what you've just been offering us, Sandy, is that this is really about continuing opening our energy to continue a relationship with our pets or our people or whatever the
Hmm.
energy is that has left behind. And that takes a kind of curiosity because it's gonna look different than the one we had when they were here with us on this plane.
Hmm.
Yeah? Yeah.
It's very different. It's like, they say we're on the AM station, they're on the FM station, and we're trying to fine tune and get to that FM station, which you absolutely will get to. But it's different. It's a different energy, and
Yeah.
it's free of guilt. It's free of the emotions that bring us down. It is pure love. I mean, it is
Yeah.
really the purest form of love. And you are right about words like expert and things like that, because nobody's really an expert on anything. And my whole I believe we are on this planet to be curious. If you're not
Yeah.
curious, then what is the point of being here? And I also believe that we're on the planet to love and be loved.
Yes.
And this is what every guest I've had on that's had a near death experience or has talked to loved ones on the other side. It is absolutely 100% across the board. Love is the answer. And I have guides that talk to me. They're up here on this side of me.
Yeah.
And every time they finish telling me something, they always say high five and higher. Love is the answer always. And for the
Mm.
longest time, when they said high five for 2 years, I thought high five and higher was high
Yeah.
five. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Like they're so cool and hip. What they were saying is the higher frequency,
Yeah.
5 and higher in
Yeah.
density and frequency, because that's where we get rid of those lower frequencies of guilt, anger, hatred, the things
Shame.
that
Yeah.
shame, jealousy that don't serve us well. So curiosity, 100%. And I also want to say that being a human, one of the beauties about being a human is that we do get to experience all those emotions.
I
And
know.
I do think it's important that every once in a while, if some emotion comes in that just like you're angry,
Yeah.
yeah, you're supposed to feel it.
Yeah.
The key is we don't stay in it. We don't want to stay and swim in that
Yeah.
because there's so many other beautiful, emotions out there.
We'll be right back with more of this beautiful conversation. Grief is normal and universal, but we all move through it in our own unique ways. In our grief phobic culture, that can leave us feeling lost, overwhelmed, and alone. That's definitely how I felt after my husband died. That's why I wrote my book, Grief is a Sneaky Bitch, an uncensored guide to navigating loss, as a compassionate and practical companion guide. Drawing from years of experience and countless conversations with people who've walked this path, I offer insights and invitations that will help you feel seen, held, and empowered to be in your grief and to move forward with it, not on from it. Whether you're grieving the loss of a loved one, a relationship, a job, or a dream, this book meets you where you're at with honesty, humor, heart, and of course, a judicious use of cussing. It's available now at your local independent bookseller or favorite online bookseller. I personally love bookshop.org. If you'd rather listen because grief brain makes reading feel impossible, and I totally get it, I've got you. I narrated the book myself, and you can find it on Audible. Yeah. Well, what you just named there is so important. I love this idea of the higher frequency, and I am with you on loving our way into the world, not, raging our way
Mhm.
into the world. Um, and and also the permission giving in that. So if you're listening and you're thinking, well, sometimes I don't feel that love and light, and sometimes maybe I'm grieving somebody that I had a complicated relationship with, and I had a lot
Mhm.
of anger, or I have a lot of resentment, or I have feel those feelings too. I think where we get into trouble is we try to, as I said before, have our emotions a la carte, and we just want to choose
Mhm.
joy and delight, and we want to completely ignore the devastating grief or longing or anger or rage. But the thing is, we don't get to have one without the other. We just end up in a really flat line. And so, one of the things that I appreciate about, well, because I get to be your friend and we get to have conversations off air, but conversations we had on your show, which I want to get into your show next, and just conversations in general, is that there's not a bypassing with what you're offering. Sort of being connected to your intuition, feeling the energy of your loved ones. You're not asking us to just be happy. It's not a toxic
Mm.
positivity. It's quite the opposite, which is one of the many things we share, is just the really being present to what is. I often say I think of emotions as information, and we just stay curious to what they are, and all emotions pass. Unless we, and this is where that loose grip metaphor I think comes in important too, is the story loops, as you were talking about at the beginning. When
Mhm.
we have a story of resentment, or if only I had, a coulda, woulda, shoulda, then we have a tight grip and we don't allow the emotion to pass through. And when we're doing that is we're not solving anything, but we're also barring ourselves from the other emotions that are trying to visit at our front door, which might be joy or delight. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I just
Mhm.
wanted to name what you just said there and sort of encapsulate that for our listeners. I can't help but be curious, because I've gotten to listen to some, not all, but how you took your passion for intuition, this recognition that you had this award that you didn't want, which was like the highest level of anxiety that they had practically ever measured, like not the prize that you were hoping for. And turned your curiosity and your own lived experience with anxiety and fear, plus your understanding of the power of our thoughts, into your show, Fear Unzipped. How did that
Yeah.
transition happen? And what allowed you to do that, do you think?
It's an incredible story,
Yeah,
because it's totally being guided. It's was guided in its intuition.
yeah,
So after I got into neuroscience, learning about neuroscience, my anxiety just I still get it on occasion, but it just dissipated.
yeah,
I don't get it the way that I used to get it, where it was debilitating.
yeah,
No, it just floats in. I go, oh, there it is. That's weird, and then
yeah,
it disappears. So I hike a lot. I live part of the time in California in the mountains, and I hike a lot. And I knew I had a lot of knowledge about how the brain works and things about intuition, but and I wasn't sharing it, maybe one or two people, and people did not know about my abilities at all. My husband didn't know, I didn't tell anybody. But I'm hiking and my guides came in and they said, "You're going to be doing a podcast." And I said, "No, I'm not." And they said, "It's going to be called Fear Unzipped." I said, "Well, it's definitely not because fear is a scary word. And there's
Yeah.
no way I've lived in fear most of my life. There's no way." And they go, "Yeah, you are." Because what's going to happen? And this was a conversation, and I'm arguing with them. And they said, "What's going to happen is you're going to heal yourself, you're going to heal the guest, and you're going to heal the community that comes in and listens. It's going to be one big bubble of very, very high frequency space." And I said, "Well, I'm actually not gonna do that because I had a PR firm for 30 years. I worked in Hollywood and,
Yeah.
people that were in front of the camera. I love being behind the camera. I love being behind the camera." And I said, "Well, I'm not gonna be in front of the camera. I don't wanna. I just don't
Yeah.
wanna." And they said, "No, you're gonna do this because it has nothing it's not you, Sandy. This isn't
Yeah.
you. This is to a platform like you, Lisa. This
Yeah.
isn't about you
No.
at all. This is I mean, I can feel it in you.
Yeah.
You're one of the best podcasters out there, by the way,
Thank
but
you. Thank you.
you just you create a bubble so
Yeah.
people feel nurtured and it's wrapping a warm blanket around
Yeah.
everybody because we need this."
Yeah.
So then I kept walking and it started to gel and nobody was on the trail and a woman is walking towards me and she's wearing a t-shirt. She says, "Fear less" in huge letters. And I stopped her. I took a picture. I have the picture.
Yeah.
I said, "I have to tell you." And I told this stranger what happened with I've never told anybody that my guides talked to me. I'm
Yeah.
telling this stranger on the trail. She goes, "Oh my gosh, it's the best idea because this is my
Yeah.
story." And I went, "Oh, maybe this is a good idea." And then I got sign after sign. I kept asking for sign. I kept asking for impossible signs I was receiving. And then I'm in Lee Harris's portal. I don't know if you know who Lee Harris
Yeah.
is, but he channels a group called the Z's. I put in a question about the podcast, and he has thousands of people that write in.
Yeah.
And they chose my question. And they said, "You have to do this podcast." And so I thought, all right, I'm doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and this is what I'd like to tell people that if you have an idea and you are getting support from others saying this is a great idea and you're getting signs, somebody is going to do the idea.
Yes.
It's just offered to you at this time. Elizabeth Gilbert has a gorgeous story about this, but it's going to be
Yes.
offered to you at this time. If you choose not to do it, somebody else is going to do it. So
Yeah.
you just decide whether you want to do it or not. And that stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
And I just I just started plugging along, and then all of a sudden, these beautiful people, this team that I have, came through, and I thought, "What are they even here? Where'd they come from?" It's because I
Yeah.
got help
Yeah.
from my loved ones, from the ethers, from my earth angels here,
Yeah. It's
and that's what
amazing.
happened.
That's
It's
amazing.
it is was crazy pants, truly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to hear a little bit about some of the
Mhm.
sort of maybe sort of highlights or things that you've learned because as you said this is for your
Mm,
learning, for your guests learning, for the audience's learning. But before I do that, and maybe this is part of what you've learned on your show, but one of the things I'm deeply interested in hearing from you is how you've come to understand um the relationship of fear and grief. I mean, one example that comes to my mind, and I've heard this from every client that I've ever served as a grief guide. I've heard this from every friend, and most guests. And one fear that I've heard common is if I start to feel my grief,
mhm,
I'm going to crack open and I'm never going to come back. I remember vividly saying this to my mom on the floor. I couldn't even make it to the couch in the house, like maybe 2 days after Eric died. Our daughter was 7 at the time.
mhm.
And, so I was trying to hold it together and couldn't. And I remember saying to her, like, I literally think you're going to have to commit me somewhere. If I really go there, you're going to have to
Mm,
commit me. I'm scared that I'm never going to come back. And then who's going to raise our daughter? Like that fear.
yeah.
And I hear that all the time. So what have you learned about the naturalness of fear and grief, but also how do we how do we hold grief? I mean, hold fear, or what do we do with fear in our grief?
There's 2 things about that you said about grief. There's the fear of grieving, really going deep into it and thinking you're not gonna come out, and then there's the fear of feeling happy again, and
Yes.
that if I'm happy, well, then people aren't gonna know that that I loved him or her, or, you know, that we're not allowed to be happy again.
Yeah.
What I have learned, well, everything is connected to fear. Whenever we feel anything that
Yeah.
is keeping us from really being who we truly are,
Yeah.
it's a fear that's holding us back. And what I've learned about grief is I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I know how people are, if we're talking about the grief of somebody who's passed on,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know they are living a beautiful, a new existence.
Yeah.
I know they can still communicate with me. I know this. I know this in every
Yeah.
cell of my body. So I have no fear of death whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I know that, and of course, if somebody close to me passes, I'm going to feel that grief
Yeah.
in a way that I won't be able to breathe.
Yeah.
But I will get past it because I believe I will get past it because I know where they are
Yeah.
and they're still here. It's a different channel. We just have to connect to that channel. And fear is a good thing in that it helps us from going down the dark alley in the
Yeah.
middle of the night thinking
Yeah.
that's not a good idea. Fear, it's important.
Yeah.
But if we are gripping fear with every ounce of our body, with every step that we take, like I can't move forward. And if I move forward and I release some of this grief for my loved one, they're going to think I don't love them.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. They're
Yeah.
going to know you love them more than anything because really they don't want you
Yeah.
wallowing in it. They
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
And I just know I know this to be true.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I answered your
No,
question,
you did,
but
you did, yeah. Well, and
yeah.
you said something there I wanna amplify again, which is, fear, like all emotions, fear, because I don't believe in the labels good feeling, good emotions, and bad emotions. That I do not trade in that, it
No.
bothers me, and to your point, fear in moderation, fear serves us, of course, fear keeps us same with stress, like, stress gets a bad rap, but stress or fear, and in this case, we're talking about fear, helps keep us safe, it helps us stay alert, it helps us pay attention, it helps us, not unnecessarily put ourselves in harm way or, at risk, and it's not the only emotion, and, sometimes fear is co-opted by the stories of others, and what we're
Mhm.
fearing is not actually coming from a, like, biological survival place. This is coming from the stories we have been told or we've learned from our own lived experiences. So
Mhm.
let it serve its purpose, let it bring you the information, be curious and discerning. Is this fear actually coming from an honest place or is this coming from a story? And then, find some trust in yourself. So, yeah, no, I
I
think that.
I I say, fear is a story, let's rewrite it."
Yeah.
Because it is a story, and it's a story that comes from, if I had people in my life saying, "Sandy, there are a million podcasts out there.
Yeah.
You're not skilled in it. You're not trained in it. It would have been, I would have had to really
Yeah.
think that through. Also, if I had known all the complexities of it,
Yeah.
I'm so glad they kept me blind to that because I wouldn't have done it.
Yes.
But I'm
It's
so
a
glad
lot
I
of
did.
work, y'all. Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of work. People don't realize that, but it's so worth it. But you said, what's some of the words of wisdom that I learned
Yeah,
on my podcast? One of the major things was from you, and that was but and and.
yeah,
In because when you say but in many instances, you're negating. Oh,
yeah,
I loved him so much, but
yeah,
and then you're negating how much you loved him. So I learned so much from you.
yeah,
I learned from Susan Graw, our mutual friend who connected
yeah,
us, when she said it's so easy to love the lovable.
yeah,
It is so hard to love what you feel is unlovable. And these times that we're in right now,
yeah,
I think we need to take that to heart.
Yeah.
Um, I've used that one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another one that came in that Natalie Miles, an intuitive, told me, and this has nothing to do with grief or
Yep. That's all right. Yep.
it's such good advice. If you're 70% ready, you're ready.
Yes.
Because some people wait for perfection
Yeah.
and it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love
Well,
that.
I think that applies to grief too, because I think
Mm.
part of the validity of fear and grief is like the worst thing happened to you.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like, I think about all of my friends, my peers, my guests who've had children die, for instance. The
yeah.
worst thing imaginable has happened to them. And so, on the one hand, fear is a valid, fear of what's the other shoe going to drop, what else is going to happen next is valid because the scariest thing that could happen to you
Mm.
happened to you. And it can also help you think about how is outsized fear not helpful now because the worst thing did happen to me. So how might I allow fear not to be in a driver's seat because now I get to pay attention to what is in the world and be in search of maybe the beauty or my
Mhm.
purpose or what I'm here for. I think about that all the time with the various losses and the very frightening traumas that I've experienced, the violent traumas that I've experienced in my life. It's like the worst things happened and I'm very hyper vigilant. I would use that label for myself often. And I also have a kind of like the worst thing has happened, so let me be present to what I can love and how I can express
Mhm.
love and receive love and feel love and radiate love and receive love, right? And how I can be in the world because it's not theoretical anymore. I've lived it. And many of you who are listening, and you too, Sandy, have lived it too.
Yeah, something that I love Elizabeth Gilbert and something that she says about fear, which I think is perfect, is it's like you're going on a road trip with fear. It's always going to be there. So fear is
Yeah.
always going to be there. But it is not allowed to drive the van.
Right. Yeah.
It can sit in the back seat.
Yeah.
It's even not allowed to bring the snacks. It is allowed to be there. It can voice its opinion, but I have the final say.
Yeah.
And because we need to find some sort of partnership with it
Yes.
because it's not going to go away. But you ultimately have, with through your own discernment and understanding of where is this coming from. Once you really tap into the intuition part of it, you will know this is not coming from me.
Yeah.
This is coming from somewhere else. And that's why I think it's very, very important for people to take time to learn how to tap into their intuition.
Yeah.
Because like I say, 98% of what you're affected by is not coming from you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I'd love to spend the last few minutes of our show hearing from you what you personally practice or what you've learned from other people. What does practicing connecting with our intuition
Mm.
look like? What is it? And it can be from a small to a big practice. And I know this isn't like the only, but what comes to mind when I ask you, hey, if I came to you and said, hey, Sandy, I really want to start really connecting to my intuition and being more present to it. Where might I start?
I would start really, really slow and breezy, and don't force anything. And because we want answers right away and we want to
Yeah.
say, oh, it worked, it worked.
Yeah, yeah,
And I promise you it works, even if you're not seeing it working.
yeah,
It's working. So my go-to is to go to nature.
yeah,
And my go-to is to look at a blade of grass or look at a leaf or look at a squirrel or look at, something that you can get engaged with. And then just say, I would love a sign. I would love, for me, from my podcast, I said, I want an orange feather, which is a really hard sign.
yeah, yeah,
That day, I found the orange feather. So you can make the signs very complicated, but I think if you're starting out, just say, I just want whatever your sign is.
yeah,
It could be a rainbow. And remember, oftentimes it's not going to come in the way you think it's going to come in.
yeah,
So you're thinking, I'm going to see a rainbow outside. Guess what? You could be walking by a store display
Yeah.
and there's a rainbow in a poster, or somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I was in Hawaii and this came in," or it really rarely comes in the way you think it's gonna come in.
Okay.
So, I would lose that concept if you can of
Yeah.
what you think's gonna happen. Just be open. Just be open and let it flow, and just kind of let that river flow, and y you'll be quite surprised, and friends will call you. I'm sure you've had friends
Yeah.
call you and say, "Yeah." So,
Yeah.
if you just can be open and loosen the grip and just say, "Look, I'm playing with this right now.
Yeah.
I'm playing, and I would like such and such sign."
Yeah.
And it'll come in the funniest ways. I mean, I've
I
really played a lot with this, and I'll give you one example. It was the middle of summer in the desert. It was 105, and I wanted to see snow. I wanted to see a snow-covered mountain, and I was just messing around with my guides. That day, my husband comes in, he goes, "Oh my god, look at this, it's a newspaper." And it was a mountain covered with snow in Colorado. He goes, "Can you believe they have a snowstorm in Colorado?" And I looked at my guides and went, "Oh, you knuckleheads. You got you you did it. You
You
brought it
gotta
in."
love the jokesters. You gotta love
Oh,
that our
they're the best.
guides, and
And your
our loved
loved ones.
ones.
Your
Yeah.
loved ones, their sense of humor, they're not the way they were when they left you.
Yeah.
If they were in pain and if they were, not well, they
Yeah.
are their beautiful selves on that other
Whole and
side, the best of
beautiful.
the
Yeah.
best.
Amazing. Well, speaking of the best, you are the best of the best, my friend Sandy. Thank you so much for
Oh,
bringing your experience, your wisdom, your heart to the
oh,
show today. I just so appreciate you, and to
oh.
your parents. I'm so glad you're joining me today on Grief is a Sneaky Bitch podcast.
Lisa, I love you to pieces. I do think you're one of the best podcasters out there,
Thank you.
and thank you for doing what you're doing because we need it. We need it now more than ever, not just in the loss of our loved
Yeah.
ones, but in living
Yeah.
and, living on the planet right now. And you are bringing so much hope and joy and laughter into a time that's really needed. So I love you and thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. All right, everyone. We will see you next time on Grief is a Sneaky Bitch podcast. Bye. Well, my friends, I hope you loved hearing from Sandy Serling today as much as I did. I want to invite you to practice something this week. It's just an invitation, but see how it feels. Take some time to go be in nature. Open your heart with love to the memory of your loved one, and then pay attention to the messages of love that are coming to you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I do hope you learned something new, felt seen or acknowledged in your grief, or feel more equipped to show up for someone grieving the death of their loved one. We'd so appreciate it if you took just a few minutes to head to the Grief is a Sneaky Bitch show page on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review about what the show meant to you. Until next time, my friends, I see you, I hear you, and I'm holding you in my heart.